I'd never mentioned it to Matt because it's just such a regular part of life for most women that it never even crossed my mind that this was something unusual. So I never thought to tell you. It's just something you have to deal with as a woman. That's honestly what I felt.
I kind of wanted to do a video about sexual harassment in the workplace, but for photographers. So hearing stories of other friend photographers who are girls as well, and hearing all the stuff that happens to girl photographers at weddings, and now hearing that it is literally every single.
Well, I've often thought to myself, I'm really glad that I'm married because I'm able to use that as a reason to stop them speaking to me like that. And I've often thought, I don't think I could do this job if I'm single, because what way have you got to get out of it?
You also said to me yesterday, you didn't realise what level things were classed as sexual harassment at.
It literally happened to me at my wedding last weekend that an older guy came up to me and he said, "Oh, that guy over there, he thinks you're the most beautiful woman he's ever seen in his life." And then he said, "Oh, can you do me a favour? Just go over to him and say, are you single?" Or I just suddenly felt like, oh, I don't really know why you want me to do that. That feels really weird and inappropriate.
Suddenly
I didn't really know how to respond because it had been delivered in a way that was nice, like it was a nice compliment. And so then the fact that it then got weird, I'm kind of off guard because you've just given me a compliment and now I feel uncomfortable, but I don't feel like I can tell you I feel uncomfortable because you've just been nice to me. So I just kind of just went, because I didn't know what to do. Yeah. And he just was like, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? I'm serious. Go and do it. Go and do it. And I just always say, I don't think my husband was very happy, or I think this is a bit of a giveaway, and that's usually my go-to response. So if I was single, I honestly don't know how I would get out of that.
It'd be interesting to throw it out to you guys, everybody. Where do you draw the line? Because for me, the compliment stage already was way over the line. I would never go to a woman that I didn't know. To be honest, I'd barely even do it. I'd barely compliment the looks of friends who are girls as well.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, but exactly. I don't know whether that's just because you're my wife and I don't want someone talking to my wife.
As a wife, I'm very glad to hear that you don't go around complimenting other women on how beautiful they are.
It'd be interesting to see where that line is for everybody, because for me, that line was crossed to way earlier than you felt it was crossed. Yeah, I personally can't see how that wouldn't have made you uncomfortable in the very first place.
Well, because it's true, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm an extremely beautiful woman. So.
Yeah, so I guess there was just a couple of things that I found online, just sort of stats. So a third of women receive sexual harassment at work, and half of the perpetrators were male customers rather than your boss or things like that. Oh, that's
interesting. That is a scenario where it's difficult because you're in a position of service and you can't call the customer out with inappropriate behaviour or inappropriate comments because you're supposed to be professional, you're supposed to be serving them, which I think is why it is difficult as a photographer at a wedding, because you're in a position of service and you don't want to be the one that appears to be creating a scene at someone else's wedding.
But if a groom was doing the sexual harassment, you just wouldn't work with them. You'd be like, screw you, I'm off. Do you know what I mean? But when it's a guest at somebody's wedding, that becomes very, very difficult. Because how do you deal with that? You're in a position where, as a victim, you've been made to feel weird, uncomfortable, afraid. That's the reality of this. I'm sure you've got weird guys at weddings everywhere that make you feel afraid.
It happens at so many weddings where I feel like someone comes up to me and they're making a comment about, oh, my mate thinks you're really hot, and he wants to go out on a date with you and he wants to know, will he go out with you? I mean, it's like proper playground type stuff. I mean, that happened in the playground when I was 8. We'd have those kind of conversations and then all their friends are like in the background and they're sniggering, but they're laughing as if like there's a private joke that I don't know about. And it's because I know that they've been making comments behind my back and I don't know what it is. And so I feel really put on the spot and I feel really isolated and you just don't know how to respond. It suddenly starts to feel quite aggressive.
Pressured.
And pressured.
Aggressive. This, to me, felt like a much bigger issue than it did to you. And I think that's because as a woman in our society, you're used to it.
To be honest, it's just a part of my everyday life.
Yeah. Which is shocking to me.
It just never occurred to me to make a big deal out of it because it's just, you just have to deal with it. Men are leering at you. You walk down the road and they're leering at you and they're honking their horns. One of the reasons I think why women don't stand up and say, that's making me feel uncomfortable, please stop. Stop speaking like that, is because quite often that gets turned back on you, where they say, oh, I was just joking. Oh, can't you take a joke? Suddenly it makes you feel even more belittled and even more vulnerable for having tried to stand up for yourself and to make it clear where that line is for you between what feels appropriate and what doesn't, what makes you feel uncomfortable and what doesn't. Exactly that happened when I was at university, because I was training to be a nurse, so I was having to do night shifts. So I was sleeping during the day, so it was about 2:00 in the afternoon, and our landlord came round, and he hadn't told us that he was due to come round that day. He just came round, which first of all is inappropriate,
illegal in this country.
Illegal, but he'd come upstairs. My bedroom door is closed, obviously, because I'm sleeping. He opened the door. Standing in the doorway is almost standing over my bed, so I feel incredibly vulnerable because I'm in bed asleep and he's standing right over my bed. And I was like, did you want something? And he was like, I just came to check the oven. And it just keeps being these awkward silences where he's staring at me. And I don't know, I'm just feeling extremely uncomfortable. So I said to him, I'm really sorry, is this something we can talk about later? And he was like, oh yeah. And he closed the door and he's left. But of course, I couldn't go back to sleep. Knowing that he can just walk in the house at any time and walk into my bedroom. So I rang him and I said, look, I just need to talk to you. I feel very uncomfortable about what happened this afternoon. I just feel like I need to request, in the future, will you not come into our bedrooms? If the door is closed, you may knock, but if you don't get an answer, do not come into the room. And he immediately was like, oh, I'm so offended. Are you suggesting that I am an inappropriate man? And I'm a family man and I'll have you know, and rah, rah, rah. And I ended up being the one apologising to him.
Disgusting.
For accusing him of being inappropriate. And I felt like even worse then. And this is why a lot of women don't bring it up, because actually it gets turned on them, that they're the ones, that they're the ones being aggressive, that they're the ones, accusing them of something inappropriate. And they end up feeling even worse and end up being the ones apologising.
I know a couple of male photographers who shoot like editorial and glamour, and photographers saying, oh, we've not got the budget to get 2 hotel rooms, so we're going to have to share the same room.
I cannot get my head around.
And then,
in what world is that okay?
I'd find the budget. I'd find the budget, if I was in that situation.
I feel like that's part of the budget.
It goes even further with these stories, some models they have to share a bed in said room, a hotel room,
but because a lot of models are saying, well, that happens on so many shoots, and so it starts to become the norm. When you hear that, you think that's extremely inappropriate. But if actually that is kind of the culture and that's what's expected, then you just don't think to challenge it because you don't think anything else is available, or that it's reasonable to ask for something else.
Perhaps if enough of us as men make this stand of, I'm going to confront it wherever it happens, I'm not going to shy away. There is a peer pressure, so people who maybe would be like that aren't like that because there is a sort of good peer pressure in that sense.
And it just shows actually culture does change things. If enough people have the same attitude about something and are insisting that that's the way it's done, actually things do change. And like you said, the people who actually would normally have felt like that was okay and would have done it would actually start changing their behaviour, changing their attitudes, changing their expectations. I think as we were saying, actually challenging it, if it's being said to you, challenge it and say, actually, this makes me feel uncomfortable, I'm sorry, and walk away. Don't accept any backlash that they then may throw back at you, because that's okay to draw the line of what you accept and what you don't. If you're a guy and someone is speaking to you inappropriately about someone else, then to actually say, I'm not comfortable with this conversation, that feels disrespectful.
And as a guest, if you're at a wedding and you see something like this happen, and of course anywhere, dive in and say.
As a woman, that would really help me, because you feel very trapped in that moment, because it's so often wrapped up in smiles and compliments. It's like light-hearted teasing. You don't really know how to respond to that, because it's something that's making you feel uncomfortable, but it's wrapped up in a nice package. So you're like, am I being unreasonable to to react to this.
Yeah.
And so you feel so put on the spot, you can't really kind of properly process. But to have somebody step in and protect you in that situation and say, come on guys, like, you know, let her go, that's not cool to be speaking to her like that. That would actually really help in that situation.
So I guess we want to open this to you guys, you know, the stuff that we don't know, we miss, you know, we haven't thought about. So we want to hear and talk to you guys. What are some of the solutions to this cultural change?
Yeah, we want to know, what experiences have you had? You know, I'd never thought to speak of it before because I just thought that's just part of life until Matt brought it up. And so we want to open it up to you. You know, are you a single woman photographing weddings? In which case, I know you will be getting this a lot. How do you deal with that? What scenarios have you guys found yourselves in? How have you dealt with that? What outcomes do you feel have been good? What outcomes do you think, actually, I would have done something differently? This is something that is changing culturally in society now because it's being challenged.
Which is great.
And the more we talk about it, the more we discuss, this happened and I handled it this way and I wish I'd handled it this way, then the more we're going to be able to come to a mutual solution and give each other encouragement and support and ideas of how to challenge this and how to actually find a positive outcome as a society, as a culture for this issue. So
if you will comment, share your stories, share your thoughts, that will add to this tide of change. I know it's just social media, but it's been proven time and time again that this stuff can change. So a somber one today, guys, but a very, very important issue. I'll not end it actually like that.